my gosh. Okay, welcome back, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of, I don't know, Ken's Circus, apparently. Um, we've had a whole thing. Basically, it starts because Cameron was late. But here with the lovely and talented Mrs. Kristen DiBiase, who always knows where the echo cancellation button is. Welcome, Kristen.
Hello.
And to the person who's late and then comes in and is echoing and makes us redo this whole thing, Mr. Cameron Jones.
It wasn't me.
It clearly was, though. Like, Kristen and I had a good thing going, and then you come in and, like, all this echoing stuff. Anyways, my friend, let's go ahead and get into the news from this week, because the big news, obviously, the WGA writer strike now over. We are going to go to our resident lawyer, who is going to take us through all the stuff that is kind of in the new contract, I guess. So, Kristen, take it away.
Yeah, so they did vote unanimously, the union leaders did, from WGA to end the strike, lift their restraining order as of this past Wednesday. And so there's a lot of good stuff that is coming out of this deal. So as you recall, they were having the strike, and they were in talks with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. That includes top studios like Disney, Paramount, Universal, and Warner Brothers Discovery. The source from which I am telling you this information is the erstwhile and helpful CNBC. I always go there to get my business-related news. So if you want to see what I'm talking about in more depth, you can go to their website and look for this info. So some of the main points of what is coming out in the deal that we are now hearing is the deal is basically a 3-year kind of titrated, staged type of thing. So immediately after ratification of the contract, the deal will have an immediate 5% minimum pay increase for writers. Then on about the anniversary of the May dates, there will be a 4% bump in 2024, and then another 3.5% bump in May of 2025. That's a total over 3 years of 12.5% of an increase for the writers. One of the major things that we were wondering about that came out of this deal is how they were going to be handling AI in this new era of do it for you, ChatGPT, and all of that stuff. So the writers were able to get some really big concessions out of this negotiation. In terms of use of AI is not allowed to write or rewrite any literary material, and any AI-generated material is not going to be considered source material. So that is going to be a big one. We will not see something that has been mostly written by AI and then cheaply touched up by badly paid writers who come in to make it better and actually humane. So that is awesome. Another area people were really wondering about in this era of streaming when you compare it to the old television network model is what would happen when it comes to residuals. So there's a new residual negotiation that came out of this, and it's going to be based on viewership. So if you have a high budget subscription video on demand series or a film that gets viewed by 20% or more or of the service's domestic viewership in subscribers within the first 90 days of release, then you will get a bonus that's equal to half of the fixed domestic and foreign residual. They're going to be calculating views by hours that are streamed domestically for the season or for the film, and then divide that by the total runtime. January 1 will be when this all goes into effect, and that means that basically numbers-wise, if a writer is doing a half-hour episode, they'll get a little bit more than $9,000 in bonus. If it's an hour-long episode, they'll get $16,400 for a 1 hour, and they'll get $40,500 for a streaming feature that has a budget of $30 million or more. They'll also be doing the total number of hours streamed domestically and internationally for any self-produced high-budget streaming programs like a lot of the Netflix original series that have come out. Across the board, the writers will also see an increased contribution rate to their health and pensions, as well as increased contributions for writing teams. So that was one of those critical pieces, because one of the things that the writers were talking about was how there are these people that are being forced to be in kind of a lone wolf situation, and there's no writer's room anymore. They also looked at improvements in screenwriter compensation, writers' room minimums, and they also renewed their $250,000 showrunner training program. And there's some other pieces that you can go to CNBC and check out this article for if you want to learn more, because there are other pieces, but those are the major parts that kind of lead to this. The showrunner training program part I find interesting but awesome, because one of the things the writers talked about is when you have these kind of lone people just in one space and there's no writer's room, more junior folk who have come in and learned the ropes from being around all those other people who are further along in their careers are not getting that seasoned training. And then they're not able to actually be successful as showrunners. And so this is really important and key.
Yeah, no, thanks. I think that's wonderful. Can you hear me? Am I good?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. I didn't see my lines moving. It's been a show. Okay. It's a night. All right. No, this is great, and I can't help but feeling like this is. Oh gosh, I don't want to go too far, but this is the way that businesses should be operating. They should be working to have programs for their employees to actually move up and to actually be trained. They should be having cost of living increases. It should be like there's no such thing. I love this quote that I heard this week. It was like, if you're a millionaire, I think it's either a millionaire or a billionaire. I think it was a billionaire. If you're a billionaire, certainly multimillionaire, and you say that you've gotten to where you've gotten off the strength of your own work and your own labor, you are lying. You got there off the basis of other people's labor. Even if you're not like Bob Iger rich and all that stuff. Let's say you just put your money in the stock market and all of that stuff and you become a multimillionaire by that. By doing that, you are making your money off the back of other people. And I think when we forget that, when Disney forgets that, like, all the stuff they're doing, all this Peter Pan versus Wendy, all this, I hated that movie. Good Dinosaur, I hated that
Didn't
movie
watch
too.
it.
What's a good movie that I like? Elemental. We're going to talk about Elemental today. So when you forget that the Elemental and all of these things are the ones that brought you to where you're at, that's when I think you're on this precipice of like people leaving, people, you falling towards a different view. So happy for the writers. Very happy for the writers. I do find it's interesting that the Screen Actors Guild is still out there. The actors are still out there. Kristen, you made a great point that they were 2 months behind. Is that what you said? Like 2 months later? So good point there. But we'll have to see what comes of there. Cameron, what do you got to say?
Well, a couple of things. First off, you're like, well, this is how business should run. Yeah, it took a strike. They had to say, we're not doing this anymore. And then they were like, oh, okay. So
and they weren't like, okay.
No,
like
exactly.
First they were like, well, actually, we're just going to wait them out.
We'll wait them out.
They'll start losing their houses, and it'll be cool.
Exactly. So I'm very happy for the writers. Extremely happy. I think that, especially on the streaming side, those details, I think, are going to be kind of critical to what we see in the deal that the actors get. It's kind of like pilots. Like United just got a new contract for their pilots, and it was higher than Delta got. So that means the American Airlines pilots are going to get a raise because they're going to be looking like, well, they got paid more. So I think it's all going to work out. But I don't think we can forget, like, number one, in order for them to do the right by the people that were making them all the money, the people that were making them all the money had to say, we're not making you any more money. And I bet all of these CEOs and whatever, they're going to be like, well, now we're going to have to raise prices. Not because they're going to be losing money, but they wouldn't be able to be getting money on the same level as they were before, and so they're like, oh
So,
well,
and just to clarify that point, they won't be making as much money, which in corporate America, the way things stand, if you're not making as much money, you are losing money.
Which is
You
so
are losing
stupid
money.
and ridiculous. I mean, again, I didn't want to say anything when you were talking about
I wasn't gonna say anything,
say it,
the
but
stock,
say it.
when you were talking about the stock market, right? That they're making their money. Like I just thought about that conversation we had the other day, and I was gonna be like, yeah, they're making their money on vibes.
all
But
right.
no,
Well,
it's
let's talk about. Go. Hold on. Let's talk
yeah.
about two things because I think there's things that are happening that I want people to remember that these things were in motion before this strike. So one of the things that was in motion before the strike was that Disney Plus had a price increase. So Disney Plus, as of October 12th, is going to jump in price. It's going to go from $10.99 a month to $13.99 a month if you have no ads. Hulu's going to increase from $14 to $17.99. And then I think the ESPN tier also increased as well. And so even if you have the bundle, everything was going up. That was in motion before the writers struck. That was happening before the writers struck. Another thing that was happening before the writers strike was Disney cracking down on password sharing. Everybody knew once Netflix did it, it was going to go through the whole streaming area, and this is starting in Canada. As of November 1st, Disney has updated their terms saying you may not share your this is funny. You may not share your subscription outside of your household, and then they went all Kristen lawyerly on you and said household means a collection of devices associated with your primary personal residence that are used by individuals who reside therein. Like they just said, this is what a household is.
Yeah.
So even as you see this writer strike, I do want to point this out. Even as you see the writers and they're coming back from the strike, even as you see screen actors, they're coming back from the strike. All of this stuff that you're about to see, all of this October stuff, everything like that, that was in the works.
It's because
I don't want to say long before, but it was definitely before the writer strike.
well, and I'll tell you why. It's because they're trying to treat streaming as, oh, people just want to watch videos on their devices. We'll put these shows on their devices. But they forgot, hey, we were getting ad revenue from this. Like when this was going to TV, we were getting ad revenue, and now we're not getting that. And so, like, I think the funniest part is you have all of these streaming places. Well, what's the number one streaming video site? YouTube. What is all over YouTube? Ads. And so in this push to like, oh, we want to be ad free and all of this stuff, well, you can try to do that, but number one, you don't have nearly the numbers that YouTube does, and you're not charging enough, and you don't have enough active users. Like you cannot command the amount of ad revenue that YouTube commands, like for a Mr. Beast video. Like,
but see, I heard another quote this week that I thought was great, that every major technology that we've called a disruptor, you look at Uber, you look at streaming, you look at some of these other things, everything we've called a disruptor to certain industries has actually just entered the market at a rate that is sub whatever industry they're disrupting, and then realized, oh wait, that's why they operated that way, and they've had to raise their prices back. Remember, Uber used to be so cheap, cheap.
They were doing that on purpose already.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I mean, they were operating at a loss on purpose to undercut the traditional model and steal their customer base.
Yeah.
But it's not even stealing. But here's the
raise
thing.
the money back up,
But
and now
here's the
people are
thing.
just paying the same.
Each time they do that, the workers get less.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
1,000%.
Every time there's this disruptor, it's changed kind of the way I'm looking at certain things, because it's like every time the worker gets less, and
Yeah.
this is what's been happening with Disney as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things where these, again, but here's the other part of that. You say every time this comes in, the worker gets less. But if you look at the YouTube model of things, like those people are basically putting on their own productions and getting far more than they
But
would.
but YouTube learned some lessons because the thing with YouTube is that they experience strikes all the time. They experience mini strikes. How do you experience a mini strike? Well, if you're someone and you're creating content and all of that stuff, you're like, "Oh, great! I'm gonna create all this content." But if you're not seeing the algorithm put your
Content
videos
out
up
there.
there, you're not seeing the content go, all this stuff. What do you stop doing? You stop creating
Stop making
content.
content.
Then all of a sudden YouTube doesn't have content anymore. And so that's your mini strike. They're experiencing these mini strikes all the time without anybody going and waving banners or anything like that. So YouTube has learned a lot just by looking at the data from their creators.
Well, looking at the data from their creators, but they have it
There's so many creators.
exactly, and that's the thing. There's so many, and YouTube can get so niche that there can be creators that are huge in, for Kristen, the legal space that I have never heard of.
Never heard of. Yeah.
But I tell Chris, oh yeah, Kristen, have you ever heard of this? She's like, oh my gosh, like yes, they are the person to go see whenever you're talking about legal stuff on YouTube. Like, and so because you have all of these things, and YouTube very smartly has shared the ad revenue, like why do you think TikTok and Instagram and all these people are like, hey, creators, come over here, give us content so we can sell ad revenue and we'll share it with you. Like, these companies have learned that, I don't know, the old heads are still trying to do it the old head way. They're like, I would rather have 50% of a lot than 75% or 80% of even smaller. So yeah, everybody make content. Let's do this thing. And guess what? We'll give you half of the revenue. I don't know
By the
exactly
way,
half.
I was just saying, as a Disney creator, Disney has also learned on YouTube, because when I first started doing YouTube videos, I have done YouTube videos in the past.
They
I
would
had to
strike
fight
all
Disney
the time.
on copyright stuff. I
Yeah.
had to, oh no, I'm just doing those stuff. Since we've been doing this, Disney
You're
has
like, nope.
not made any copyright claims at all.
Yeah,
and I'd
and
love to
because
think
it's
because
stupid.
Bob has me on speed dial, but I'm not sure that's the case.
It's just stupid because 97% of the time, it's not somebody who's just sitting and just like
Playing a
pirating
video.
something
Yeah.
live.
Mm-hmm.
It is almost always actually a fair use of the material. You're commenting on it. There's commentary. It's satire. There's all kinds of stuff, and it's silly for them to go after the people who are their core content people.
Their
Like
core
they're
fans.
just
Their
yeah,
core fan
we're-
base.
we're-
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're just sending more people to Disney.
Okay, I want to ask y'all's opinions on something, because there was something that came up, and please let me know if you can't hear the audio. Okay, there was something that came out, and you're probably gonna know by the way I ask this question, but I just want to know, after you see this, I'm only gonna play part of it. I want to know. It's only a minute. I'll play the whole thing. I want to know where you think. Actually, they're gonna ruin it. So I'll just say, where do you think this is going to premiere? This.
Is that it?
Oh, I already know anyway.
Oh yeah.
Come on, Minnie.
Sir, let's get the game.
Picture time, guys.
Okay.
Come on, everybody. Here we go.
Water.
100
Yeah.
years of stories.
Did they
Make it pink.
So
Make it blue.
see? And I like this, but at the same time, it's funny to me because I don't know how much of this is actual new animation versus like, hey, let's Jungle Book Robin Hood this thing and
Yes. I had the same thought because, like, when you listen, Peter Pan's voice, that is exactly
oh yeah,
from the movie.
yes,
yeah, no,
That
that
is
is
the
that. Yeah,
exact
yeah.
totally is, and so is Merriweather.
Yeah, the
Yes.
make it pink, make
Make
it
it-
blue.
yeah.
I'm like, they
Yes.
took that directly off. Oh, here's the cell. Let's take these and digitize and yeah.
But does it really matter? Because here's my thing
I,
about the Once Upon a Wish, right? The thing about Once Upon a Wish that is crazy to me is that it's debuting on ABC. ABC, like it's debuting on ABC. Like, how does that
wait,
make
when
sense?
are they doing that?
October 15th. It's coming out.
Yeah.
It's a short film coming out October 15th.
Oh, wait, so that's not the whole film? That's just the trailer?
No,
This
that's
is
just
the
a trailer. Yeah.
Oh. Well, okay.
Okay.
Well,
It's okay.
No. It makes sense because I was seeing these things for the Wonderful World of Disney, like Sunday the Wonderful World of Disney, and I was like, they're not going to be able to do that for very long because we all know what Bob wants to do. But I was like, it's cool that they're kind of bringing
Bob wants
it.
to sell, by the way, in case you
Yes.
missed that one. Bob wants
Yeah.
to sell the
Bob
the TV
does want to
properties.
sell. But if you ask them, they say, no, we don't want to.
Hey, somebody already offered to buy, and they've turned him down. I can't remember who it was, but they turned him
It
down.
was too soon. It was too soon. But yeah, it makes sense to me. But I don't know. Oh, just to clarify, I looked it up. Content creators on YouTube make 55%, approximately 55% of the revenue generated on their channels. So YouTube's
That's
getting
not
less.
true. That's not true.
Well, that's why I said approximately.
At a certain level,
Approximately.
sure. Average.
Yes.
Over the
Right.
over the
I'm sure
yeah.
there's.
Yeah.
They got to
It's-
be able to find the channel first.
Right. Well, hey, look. By the way, first of all, if you're searching at the Disney Movie Review, okay, so we're at the Disney Movie Review on YouTube. But secondly, I just know that's not true. I've received YouTube revenue before for a video I made, and it was. I like to think that it was nowhere near 55%, because if that was 55%,
How long ago?
How many-
was
yes,
it?
and how many-
It was a long time. I will say that it was a long time ago.
Okay.
Yes.
And how many
Very
views
long
did
time
you
ago.
have?
Enough to get revenue. You can't get revenue off of like 20 views. I don't remember.
I
how many
know
views.
that.
I'm just saying. Like, I don't know. I don't even
Just
know how
leave it
many
up.
views
Leave
this
it up
gets,
forever.
Cameron.
That's the
Like-
best part.
Exactly. Like there. I'll get off
Okay,
my horse,
anyways,
but like,
go back to what we were talking about, please.
okay,
Once Upon a Wish.
Once Upon a Wish. It to me, it makes sense that they're debuting it on ABC because I think it's a kickoff. I don't think Wonderful World of Disney starts, or if it does start, it's like it's a soft opening, and then here we have Once Upon a Wish with all these characters, and a big kickoff for Wonderful World of Disney. That makes sense.
Well, I mean, it's a short film, is what they're saying. I don't know. I feel like this is kind of going back to the writer's strike. I'm wondering how the media landscape is going to change now that you have these new deals on streaming, right? For the longest time, let's say the longest, like a few years, everything has been pushing towards streaming. But now I feel like someone's trying to push the reverse button. You see it with the movie theaters, right? Like, movies
Only in theaters.
only in theaters, staying in theaters a lot longer than they used to, especially during the pandemic. I mean, Haunted Mansion is coming to Disney Plus now, and I guess Haunted Mansion came out recently. But it took Elemental a long time to get to Disney Plus, longer than I would have expected.
Because they were making money.
I know
Like,
they were making money. We'll get to
but
talk
they
to
were-
Elemental later. We'll talk about Elemental later. Cameron.
No,
Okay?
I'm not.
Calm
I'm
down.
not trying to talk about Elemental, but I'm saying they have again. The YouTube model is I can put this on streaming on YouTube, and if it doesn't hit right away, that's cool. We'll let it cook, and then it starts to hit later. Guess what? You're still getting that revenue from that video. Once they move it over to streaming, if like the people have already paid their monthly payment, they're not paying again. Which they
Well,
could
I mean-
have had them pay
Well-
if they kept the model of hey, do you want to watch this the same time that it comes out in the theaters? We'll
No,
charge you $30.
Once you move it to streaming, so here's the deal. once you move it to streaming, people do pay again. So, it's an incremental thing, but you got to consider, right? Mrs. Doubtfire. Mrs. Doubtfire comes to Disney Plus in October. Very excited about Mrs. Doubtfire. Right. Okay. Yes. You just made everybody deaf. Okay. Yes. I'm excited. Like, one of the reasons I'm paying for Disney Plus and excited to pay
It's
for
for
Disney Plus,
Mrs.
because
Doubtfire.
Mrs. Doubtfire's coming. I don't own Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm not going to go out and buy Mrs. Doubtfire, not because I don't like the movie, but just because I'm not going to do that. And if I have Disney Plus, not only do I get Mrs. Doubtfire, I also get Animals Up Close, which is what my daughters like. I also get The Simpsons, which if you watch The Simpsons, please message me. Tell me how you got into that show. Like, I am trying to go to it with an open mind, and I just cannot.
It's
You
'cause-
didn't watch it when it first came out?
Oh,
No, we weren't allowed
We were
to.
not allowed.
We were not allowed to watch
That
The
rude
Simpsons.
child,
No.
Bart
How dare he
Simpson,
disrespect
absolutely
his
not.
parents that way? Oh,
Oh
no,
my
no, no,
gosh,
no, no.
we were watching
No,
from
no.
like literally day one, episode 1. For Christmas, I got The Simpsons Sing the Blues, like
Rude
CD.
child. Oh, we listened
had
to
that.
it. We
had The Simpsons
the
Sing the Blues.
Simpsons
yeah.
Sing the Blues, the
But-
Springfield Soul Stew. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We know
Now
all
we're
about
gonna
that.
No
bring it
watching.
because
But-
we gotta go
We gotta go
home.
We are just all over the place tonight, y'all.
It's a Mona Lisa Bliss.
I would do the Bartman.
Oh,
I
I
would-
loved it.
I would apologize, but you know this show. I can't even remember what we were talking
Yo,
about.
hey, what's
I-
happening, dude?
How they get paid? That
Yes,
how
no, so
getting
so
paid
I
again.
I think what you're gonna see is this reverse button hitting. Is someone saying, okay, we've been driving content to keep people streaming, to keep people going here and all this stuff. Now the revenue cost and the cost of doing business for streaming is starting to approach that of our TV and all of these things. Do we start to cut more deals with the cable companies? Just like
Yes.
we're cutting deals with the movie theaters. Do we start to cut more deals with the cable companies so that it's like you get Disney Plus, you also get Spectrum for $20 more.
It's so
now you
crazy
have-
that they're coming back to the cable companies.
I'm just saying. Yeah,
I'm
go
never
ahead,
going
Kristen.
back to cable,
But
ever.
it makes sense revenue-wise because they need that money, and they're not getting the same kind of money that they were getting from, hey, I'll let you have this movie and we'll get the ad. Oh yeah, we get to have this movie and we get this ad revenue. And even the way that actors were paid, like, hey, this is going. The number one thing actors wanted was for a TV show to go into syndication. Oh, yeah, yes, I made that back way back when, and it's those people staying up at 3 a.m. watching it. Oh yeah, because they're making me money.
The
but
kids, all of a sudden, they're all into Grey's Anatomy. Like, somebody was like, do you know that show Grey's Anatomy? And I was like, I was in law school when that show started. And yes, I knew it. We all watched it every week.
But I mean,
that's the thing. Like, and that's why I'm excited with the deal that the writers got, because now, like, take Suits for instance. Suits has like blown up on Netflix, but
Yeah.
those people aren't really seeing like a giant, oh yeah, let me get this residual check. And I'm like, okay.
And
Okay.
Meghan Markle needs a check.
Listen.
well, look, just to be clear, these are not just checks for the high paid for the Rosario Dawson that
No.
exists
Right.
on
This is everybody.
on your Ahsoka. This is for the background Imperial worker that's like all for the Empire. The guy that like raises up and says for the Empire but I didn't spoil anything.
Yeah.
Sorry if you haven't seen it. But
The guy who was also in that episode who ran that entire outfit, like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna say he's fallen on hard times, but like he used to be on House,
Yeah.
and now he's an episode player on an episode of Ahsoka. So like, good for him getting a check.
Exactly. And that you also have like series not main characters, but those people that are series regulars, like they are not getting rich off of
No.
these things. Like,
Yeah,
th-
it's a working job.
They're
yes,
making a living, right? They're
yes.
making a living, and that's what it comes down to. Like literally, we're gonna move on, I promise you. But I do just want to say, like, when, okay, I'm just gonna be on a little bit of a high horse here. All right, when you okay, so when you look at the world today, let's take student loans, right? You look at the world today and you take student loans and you're like, oh my gosh, like I paid off my student loans. Why can't so-and-so pay off student loans? We're talking about all this loan forgiveness, or let's take minimum wage. Look at the minimum wage. I survived on this minimum wage, all of this stuff like that. Forget about all the ways the world has changed. Let's forget about it. Let's ask ourselves, do we want the world to be better? Because if we want the world to be better, people who come behind us are going to get access to things we didn't get. I talk with
Right.
my wife about this all the time because it grates me as a parent.
Yeah.
When we're in the car, I ask my kids, what do you want to listen to? Because we have Amazon Music. There's a whole world of stuff they can listen to and all this on demand. Daddy, I want to listen to What Does the Fox Say? Oh, well, honey, let me pop it up right here. What does the fox say? I'll do this. And even though I provide that as a parent, it grates at me because there was no possible way if I
We-
wanted to hear a song, even
we
if we
listening to
had
this
it on
cassette tape.
the tape or the CD or whatever, like no, this was mom and dad's thing.
It's
but
like what? Like kiddie songs? Were those even a thing? Like I'm pretty sure elementary schools were playing the Spinners, Rubber Band Man.
but see, like
It's a
if
good
I
song.
want life to be better for my kids, there's going to be things that they have access to that I won't, and I want them to be able to make a living. So even if you think, right, like, oh my gosh, these writers, these UAW, all these people striking, all of this stuff, look, you may have made it to whatever level you're at, and I applaud you for that. That is great. That is amazing. But if we want the world to get better, we need to make sure that people are making a living, right?
Yeah.
Work is what we do in order to live. We do not live to work. We work so that we can live. I work so that I can afford to have an internet connection and spend time with you every week. Like, not every week. I'm not doing that. But
Periodically.
periodically.
On a not
Periodically.
infrequent basis.
Right. So that's I'm gonna get off my high horse now. We got to move on because we got to talk about Wish. And I told Cameron we'd talk about Elemental, and I know he's gonna do like a horror dissertation on that. But Wish, they just dropped a new trailer for Wish. Let's go ahead and move on there. I'm going to share my screen once again, and we can talk about what y'all think of this new trailer.
3, 2, 1.
Asha!
I'm here! I'm here! Whew, one second. Let me catch my breath.
Once upon a time stood Rosas, a most magical kingdom, founded by a king with the power to grant wishes.
You are their handsomest, most beloved king.
You're right. I am a handsome king.
I'm so nervous I think I'm going to explode.
My best friend, the king's apprentice.
My mouth drooping. I feel like it's drooping.
Asha, come with me. The wishes of Rosas.
Whoa.
People give their wishes to me, and I grant the wishes I am sure are good for Rosas.
Some of these will never be granted.
Not some, most.
They deserve more than.
I decide what everyone deserves.
So I look up at the stars to guide me. I wish. And
Okay, so from there we go back pretty much to what the
Yeah,
teaser trailer was. Cameron, go ahead.
I didn't know that Bob Iger was making a movie about himself. Like, if he wanted to make a documentary, he should have just said something. But yeah, Bob Iger is King Magnifico.
Clarify, please.
Bob Iger is King Magnifico. That like the whole I decide what's best. Oh, this sounds kind of familiar, and it's so funny coming off of coming off of a strike from the writers and still in the middle of a strike for the actors, like the words of the king sound very much like the CEOs of these companies saying, "I decide who is best. I decide what's best for."
Are we going to talk about the writer strike all night tonight? Is that what's
No,
going on?
I'm just saying, when he said that, like, him saying that he decides what's best and he decides what, like, what's good for the kingdom and whatever, like, that is such. It gave me very much the vibes of the oligarchy, and that it's a movie regarding the oligarchy. So,
well, do you think, and the trailer makes it pretty clear that he is the villain. First of all,
yes.
Do you believe that? Do you think Disney villains are actually back? Which would be great. And secondly, do you think it actually is a movie, quote unquote, of our times, from the standpoint of if you look at the wealth gap and all of that stuff, we are literally living in the times of kings and
oh, 1,000%. And it's. I do think that the Disney villain is back.
But notice how the Disney villain is hot now?
Yeah.
They're not allowed to like conflate ugliness with badness anymore.
They have to. They started with Hans, in Frozen, and then they're like, "Oh, okay, we can."
Oh, this guy's so much better than Hans.
Oh, he is.
Hans is not attractive. No.
Yeah,
I mean, he's no like Dimitri from Anastasia or anything.
Yeah. This guy is like a George Clooney, right?
He does. Yeah, he definitely does remind me of George Clooney. But I definitely think that the Disney villain is back. And I think it really does seem like the wishes are not. Yes, it's, oh, your wishes. What do you want to do? What do you want to become? But it's more than that, because so much of the wishes that we have in the present day, in the real world, are not like, oh, I want to ride a dinosaur. Like, it is these tangible things that people are actively saying, no, you cannot have that. And putting blocks up in order to keep people from getting those things. So it's, I don't know, and I don't look too deep into it because obviously it's being put out by a mega corporation in Disney, but it seems very, I could be totally wrong because Disney does not know how to market movies, and we'll get into that later, but the way that this trailer, the way that this trailer is coming across, I think the Disney villain is back and it's a movie of our time.
Kristen, I want to hear more about your hot villains. Or tell me what you think of the trailer as well. But
I had never, honestly, I think I only saw the teaser trailer for Wish, not even the first version of the trailer that came out after that. So that was all new for me. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with anything that Cameron has already said. I'm pretty much in the exact same place. But I do think, yeah, I feel like after that weird non-villainness, or like, the villain was you all along inside. Conquer your inner villain, or there's no villains here. Everyone's just complex and multifaceted, and things are struggly. Let's all just have a struggle meal and come together. Yes, I think villains are back for a minute, but because everyone has kind of pointed out all of the things that are like the villainy tropes that Disney used to kind of just do all the time. Like, oh, is it purple and green? You're a villain. You know what I mean? Like, do you have some type of, physical deformity or something like that? Like, are you a little bit different? You're a villain. Anything that's different or non-attractive is considered bad. So that's not a good lesson for kids to be learning. So I feel like maybe they're getting away from that. And so now there are more hot villains, which honestly, in real life, it's kind of like that. Because, oh, look, I'm not going to go like super into this, but I used to have this whole like theory when I was younger. It's like, okay, we're all given like certain things and there's certain levels of what we are given, and some people get more than others in certain areas. So like some people get a great personality and some people get great looks. But you have to make up for the things that you didn't get or to balance out. So the best kind of person is that hot person who's super nice because they don't have to be nice because
they're hot.
The whole halo effect, right? People are treated better if they are more attractive. So if somebody who is attractive is actually nice, that's like a bonus because they literally are told by society that they don't have to be nice to anyone. So the corollary to that, which is where I spent more of my time in this personal theory, is how are you going to be unattractive and have a crap attitude? Because you've got nothing going for you right now. Like, you're not cute. Like, you really need to put a good face on stuff and be a nicer person or something because you have nothing to commend you.
You're not that cute. Your hair is uneven. You look dusty. How you gonna be mean too? You can't be mean and ugly.
But I mean, like objectively dusty, though. Not
you
like the thing where there's
ugly.
Okay. All right.
If you look like a foot, you need to be a nicer person. I'm just saying.
Okay. Well, this has been a wonderful discussion. Oh man, I will say, look, look, Disney, you advertised, you gave me a villain. Leave it at that. Just
don't you dare change it.
Don't overcomplicate
right, like,
it.
Don't get him getting wishy-washy.
What if they go for a redeemed villain?
That's fine. You can redeem him, but he better be an actual villain.
No, do not redeem him. Like, dude,
why can't people learn? Why can't people learn?
Because it's been too long. It's been too long without a villain. Okay. We just need a villain.
I just need a villain.
But then what happens, though? What happens to the villain at the end? Nobody's allowed to die anymore.
All villains fall. All the best villains fall.
I know, but like, when's the last time somebody fell, y'all?
Long time. It's been a long time.
Been a minute.
Tommy did not fall.
Maybe you can let him be like Callahan in Big Hero 6. He gets arrested. He realizes the error of his ways. He gets arrested. I don't need to see all his redemption. Oh my gosh, I was wrong. No, I don't need to see that. Okay? Maybe he doesn't die.
He could be at the start of the redemption, but he still has to go to jail.
He still has to do, yes.
Like, he's not getting off the hook. When I talk about redeeming, I mean inside. You're going to have to do some time.
Look, here's the deal. If he still has to deal with the consequences, and it's not some sort of like, oh, well, okay,
we forgive you.
Do this. I was wrong. Like, if you ever seen Trolls, like Trolls 2, Trolls 2 is this really awesome movie. I will put it out there. Because Trolls 2 talks about, I'm just going to ruin it. If you haven't seen it, it's because you didn't want to see it.
What have you been doing?
Long time. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Pop trolls, okay? They have these trolls. There's 6 kind of clans. It's like pop, classical, techno, all these different clans of trolls. And the pop trolls have been telling this story that we have to live in isolation because the rock and roll trolls are like trying to come for everybody. And then throughout the movie, the pop trolls realize that in actuality, it was the pop trolls that stole everybody else's music. They stole the funk music. They stole the techno music. They stole the classical music and weren't giving credit. They weren't giving credit to any of these other ones.
Now there's a big...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that better?
No.
No? Oh.
Really? Yeah, you hit it and now it has done something crazy.
There it goes.
Yeah, it's better now.
Better? Okay, cool. Sorry about that.
Wait, so the pop trolls are all white people?
This is like literally, this is the basic thing. This is your history. Pop trolls, white people. This is your history. There is nothing you can do about it. Someone did this stuff. You cannot erase it from your history books. You cannot take it away. You cannot claim this is yours. Someone did this.
This.
And at the end of the movie, they have the person that did it. They have the person that did it there. Pop Troll. What's his
It's
name?
not.
Pop
No,
Troll?
that's not his
It's not
name.
Pop Troll. It's like Father
King.
Troll.
No.
Father
Something.
Pop.
No,
King Poppy
Pop
Troll.
Daddy.
Pop Daddy Troll.
it is not.
Something like that. Something like that. Okay. It's Poppy Daddy Troll.
It's
And-
not King Peppy. King Peppy.
King
King
Peppy.
Peppy.
And at the end of this, his daughter, Poppy,
Princess Poppy.
Princess Poppy the troll, confronts him, and he's like, "Yeah, that was pretty wrong," and that's it. That's like the whole thing, and this bothers me a lot, as you can probably tell, like, because we have this whole great movie and this entire setup for Poppy, Pink Peppy, whatever his name is, to have to deal with the consequences of his actions. And the consequence that he has is, yeah, that was kind of messed up. I wonder who did that. Like,
that's
that's
like real
basically
life.
You did it.
Dude,
But that's
so
how
anyways,
it actually is.
I-
So
I-
it was
okay,
a realistic ending, is
but
what you're saying?
It was, look, it's realistic
So like when
because
the person
no
was like,
one,
"Hey,
no,
you're a
no, no.
colonizer,
No,
and you did all
because,
this stuff
look,
to these people."
You did all this stuff
and
to
then-
people. Yeah, you right. That was messed up.
Yeah, my bad.
All right. So, anyways.
No reparations though.
Look,
So, anyways.
if no one is showing that there has to be some sort of consequence, if no one's showing that, then why should anyone, children or adult aligned, think that there should be consequences?
But I think-
otherwise
but
we
see-
grow up just thinking that's the way it is.
No, but there is a. You're missing it because
Fix it
Frozen
for me.
2 came out after Trolls 2, right?
Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I think so.
I know what you're gonna say, but you're wrong. Go ahead. I'll let you say it. You're wrong. Go ahead. Go
I'm gonna
ahead.
let you finish.
Exactly. No, but in Frozen 2, that's why I think Frozen 2 is far superior to the original Frozen, is because you have this thing of, oh, we did this, oh, but we shouldn't pay for it back. Like, yeah, it was messed up, but it's like, no, we have the obligation to make this right. It doesn't matter that it's going to cost us this thing that we have established. We have only established this because we have wronged them to begin with. And so
It doesn't cost anybody anything, by the way. In case you haven't seen Frozen 2, it really doesn't change anything. Like, nobody...
But they didn't know that was gonna happen.
It cost nobody nothing, okay?
Right, but
So,
they
again,
didn't
we're
know it wasn't gonna
we're not
cost them.
showing any
They thought
sacrifices.
it was gonna cost them,
or
and they
anything
made the
like that.
decision. But in
Yes.
the last moments, they then
Okay.
did not have to pay the pauper, but they were prepared
Yes.
to pay the pauper.
Just have someone pay the Pauper. Just that's my thing. Just have someone pay him. Poor Popper Man. Popper Man just been sitting there waiting to be paid. And it's like somebody's got to pay him at some point in time.
I
Okay?
will
I mean,
say,
I like Frozen 2 better than Frozen 1 as well. The moralizing and the lessons at the end were just a bonus. The reason that it is better is completely because of like the send up of Peter Cetera power ballads. Let's be real.
I
Frozen,
will
by the way,
say,
Frozen is celebrating its 10-year anniversary. Disney is doing a lot of
Cool.
hoopla for it, including like a kind
whatever.
of
You're making a third
podcast
one.
sort of thing. It's an
Don't
audio
care.
story.
Don't care.
That's so crazy.
I think it's a lot for a
You're making
film,
a third.
but
It
I
doesn't
know
matter.
was so big, but go ahead, Cameron. Sorry, I was cutting you off.
Just going back to Wish, I will say I think it is good that so many times the villain is trying to be painted as like all bad, like, oh, you get nothing, no. But if you look at this, like he's seen as, oh my god, look at how generous he is by granting these wishes. Like, oh, he's so generous, and you're like, okay, yes, he's getting $50 and he's giving you $2. Generous, so generous, and you're
Much
like,
better than not receiving any dollars. I guess.
exactly. But you're like, he's withholding so much, and it's not like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's just like, well, no, I decide I
Well,
decide.
and to be fair, we don't actually know if he's like withholding so much. Maybe when he grants a wish, all of his life force has to go out of him, or maybe there's something like that. You know what? But you don't know. That's the thing, right? Like we don't know.
I do not
So
know.
at this point, So at this point, we're still in there. I'm going to move on to your. The time has come, Cameron.
Oh, get ready.
It is ready. Okay, we only got a couple minutes though. I'm not gonna
Okay.
just spin this over.
Okay.
But,
Well, it's all Cameron because I haven't seen it. So
let's go ahead and talk about Elemental. Go ahead, Cameron. You're up.
Elemental is a great film that Disney did a terrible, abysmal, it's terrible job of marketing.
You're losing time here.
I'm
Go
just
into
saying.
your thoughts.
Elemental is such a story about family, immigrants, sacrifice, following your journey. Like, it is a phenomenal movie that most people skipped out on because all they saw was, oh, water, fire, oh, they cannot mix. What are they going to do? Like, Romeo, Juliet, okay, whatever, move on. And it is so much more than that. And the whole water-fire dynamic it was almost a side note. I mean, there was even a part, was it when she goes to see, when Ember goes to see, what's his name? Wally's family? And they're like, oh, she speaks so well.
Oh no!
No,
his name is Wade, by the way.
Wade,
so
okay.
Because you
Wait,
like.
sorry, I don't know. But they went through this whole thing. Like, I was like, oh wow, yeah, they're going there, and so it was such a good movie that so many people missed out on because the marketing for it was absolutely terrible. Like, and almost all the people that I've talked to about it, there's a family that I know, they were immigrants, and she saw that movie and she was just like, she's like, oh yeah, I cried. She's like, seeing, like, okay, giving away some of the movie, but it is really a story about immigrants. And when she was like, how do you repay someone who has made so many sacrifices to try to provide something better for you? Like, how do you repay them? And it's a phenomenal movie, and that's why it had the best premiere on Disney Plus that any movie has ever had. Just because a lot of people didn't see it in the theaters because the marketing was terrible,
Well,
but then
I'll take issue with that. I'll take issue with that because a lot of people did see it in the movie theaters, right? It was a slow burn.
It had legs.
It earned more than Cars. It earned more than Toy Story. So I think that Elemental, having it slow burn, especially think about Toy Story, think about Cars. We were in the era, especially Toy Story. We were in the era when people went to the movies. When you said the first computer animated film, like, oh, absolutely, people were going to see that. So I think we're in a slow burn area. I do want to ruin a little bit because Disney put out a documentary with Peter Sohn, who's the director of this. Peter Sohn, longtime Disney guy. He played Squishy in Monsters University, directed Partly Cloudy. He also got put with The Good Dinosaur. That wasn't him. I'm going to say it wasn't Peter. It's not the Peter I know, okay? Anyways, he did this film, and it's very, very personal to him. They put out a documentary on Disney Plus called Good Chemistry. I just want to share one part of this documentary because I find it to be so so good. Let's see. Here we go.
I've never really done anything personal like this.
Y'all can hear that, right?
Yeah.
This film is all about gestures of love. There was a moment in Ember's past where there was some xenophobia and she wasn't allowed to enter this station to see this beautiful flower. Wade finds a way for Ember to see it. It's very much Wade's gesture of love to Ember. Elemental is not just a love story between a boy and a girl, fire and water. It was about a parent and child as well. There were constant gestures of love from my parents. Taking care of each other, that was the I love you.
Good daughter.
Having lost my parents while making this movie, it became a way to honor them. It became my gesture. It was the best way that I can say I love you.
Wait, he lost both of his parents while making the movie?
Lost both of his
I know,
parents while
like,
making
wow.
the movie.
You have
And now
got
that,
and
if
that's
that
what. Oh
sounds
my
to you
gosh!
like a romantic comedy type of film, after watching that, if that sounds to you like a romantic comedy or whatever, like, you got to check yourself, because that film, if you watch the documentary, if you watch the film, he puts himself into that film. Like, literally,
1,000%.
it is his story. It is someone who has not had. It is someone whose parents. Okay, I'm going to ruin the documentary for you. I'm not going to ruin the movie, but it is someone whose parents came over and started a store. Started working 2 stores up at 5 a.m. and going to bed at 11 p.m., 12 a.m. just so that they could do it again the next day, 7 days a week. And he's supposed to take over this store from his parents. And what does he want to do? He wants to draw. How do you tell your parents that you want to draw when you are in this Korean family and everybody? How do you tell
And
your
they've done
parents?
all of this stuff to make a.
So they can pass it for you.
Yes.
And it's the thing of
they came
how do you
over
tell
to
your
make a
parents-
better life for you.
Right. But also, how do you tell your parents you want to marry someone who's not Korean? When
Yes.
literally, that's Korean. And this is Peter San's story. And what Disney marketing did was key in on that whole, how do you tell your parents you want to marry someone who's Korean, who's not Korean?
Oh no,
But when you-
they didn't even key. No, they didn't even key in on that. No,
That part, yeah.
because it wasn't a. Hey, how do you tell someone like? How do different cultures? It was like fire, water, ha, 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 ha. They don't mix. How you gonna? I was like, no, this is so stupid. Like,
You're off screen, Cameron, just so you know.
am I?
Oh yeah, Cameron, you're off screen. Look at that. I wasn't
What?
even looking.
Oh.
Yes, Cameron's off screen. Of course,
Well,
Cameron
it
ruins
shows
everything.
that.
Yeah.
It shows that my screen is on. I don't know. We'll
Okay.
see.
Well, if it shows your screen is on, then we're good. There
Okay.
must be something else going on.
But yeah.
Tell me, Cameron. What did you think of the 2 love stories? Because there are 2 love stories in there,
Oh,
right?
there's definitely
this
2 love
story
stories.
between Wade and Ember, the fire and the water and fire, and there's the love story between Ember and Bernie, Bernie being Ember's dad.
Yeah, the love story between Wade and Ember, I don't think it was that fully explored, because the love story between Ember and her father was so deep. And I think you'd see the love story part between Wade and Ember, but it's not. I don't know. Like,
I would disagree with that.
you think it's deep?
And
I
think
it's
I think
there.
it is deep. I think it's
But
deep.
it's not. It's hard to explain. It's not what the marketing shows you at all. It is not the trailers. It is not the commercials. It is. The only reason I say it's not that deep is because of the kind of ending portion of the movie. I'm not gonna ruin it, but like the stuff that transpires between Wade and Ember. That's the only reason why I say it's not.
So what I'm showing right now is part of the
Oh,
song
don't
my
show
girls
this.
really like, which is "Steal the Show."
Oh, Steal the Show.
Um,
Yeah, that's great.
and you're seeing them kind of falling in love and all this stuff, and all the challenges that they're having to deal with.
And
like
I
right now
wish.
they're in the elevator, and he's melting, kind of, and she has this. But see, all of this to me. First of all, I do really like this song, by the way. So, I love this song. So, all this stuff, all the stuff that they're showing in this whole little montage area, as a person who is in a interracial relationship, to me, it is deepening it. It is showing. It's very stereotypical in some ways, but also I took it to my personal. The way that like one of the things they talk about is how fire burns hot, and then water's always trying to water them down. And then when she goes to see his family, they're, I guess, an emotional mess. They play this game where they try not to cry, and like the whole thing is like trying not to cry. But like, I think that I find a lot of depth in their relationship, but maybe it's because of my interracial relationship that is kind of playing into that.
But I think
even there, I mean, you saw that she was trying to drink a drink, and he was able to drink it, but she wasn't.
But that's my point. I wish they went deeper into the explanation of how she is living in a world that was not created for her, and did not have her in mind when it was created. And instead of saying, "Hey, we're inviting these people in, so we need to make sure that they are also able to participate in this world," they're just saying, "Well, everybody else can do it. What's wrong with you?" And I know that's not the message of this movie, but I think they could have gone further because I think as a black male, whenever I saw his family, like, "Oh, she speaks so clearly, she speaks so well," and I was just like, "Oh my gosh!" Like that is that is like I'm sure black people everywhere were like, "There it is," and like, or even but they didn't really talk about it, like verbally talk about it. It was just stuff that you saw, and for it to be in that sort of movie, there are some people that will see that and be like, "Oh, ha 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 ha, that's so funny," and there will be others who will see it and be like, "No, do you not see the problem with that? Do you not see the problem that you have this world that was created for other people, and now you've invited these different people in it, but you have not changed this world to really fully integrate these people into it."
And
you will
to
still
let
have
you know what
all
Cameron's
of these.
talking about. They have, in the very beginning of the movie, one of my criticisms of the movie is that they go into world building too quickly, right? They don't start. There's this amazing story that they could have started with them leaving Fireland and coming over to Zootopia. Yes, and I said Zootopia. I said Zootopia on purpose. But it's called Element City, but I'm going to call it Zootopia. There's this amazing story they could have started with. They didn't. They started with the part where Judy makes it to Zootopia. And so that takes back a little bit of the impact of what it should be. But in this scene, they show water was the first element. Water was the whole city. Element City is built around water because water was the first element. Then came earth, then came the clouds, and then came fire. But fire doesn't even have, like, everybody has these plaques up, right? You have the water, you have the earth, you have the wind. Fire doesn't have a plaque. So, like, Ember's parents, Bernie and Cinder, I think, are the first of the Fire Nation, land people to come to Element City, Zootopia. And so there's all these things that happen there, like they ask them how they spell their names. And they don't speak English, they speak Fire-ish, and so they're like, that's literally what it sounds like. And the guy is just like, "We'll call you Bernie and Cinder. Here you go." And I'm like, that's exactly how it happened.
That is how that happened.
Exactly how it happened. So,
But see, that's my point. Is that you have these things that are cultural things that I don't know, certain people can look at that and be like, oh yeah, that's how it happened, and it shouldn't have happened like that. But other people might see it as like, oh, ha ha, funny joke. He said, oh, I should try and make this.
It's not an education thing. It's not Peter San sitting down to educate you about xenophobia and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
He's putting it in the film. This is going back to our discussion about villains. This is why it's important to show consequences, to show taking responsibility for your actions and facing those things. Because if you do not see it in the film, you will start to believe, as a child, especially if your parents don't talk to you about it, you will start to believe that those things don't have to happen. So I made Kristen stick around. She was like, I'm going to leave once you start talking about elemental. I was like, no. Stick around. Ask us questions. Is there any burning questions in your head? If there's none, that's fine. But
No.
hasn't seen it. I'm just curious to get thoughts.
I don't have any questions. I think from what I've heard you all talk about, I feel like the nuance that Cameron is talking about that is not there, I don't think there would have been time to put that in, because it sounds like it was already too full just with like the two relationships that the movie is focused on, that there wouldn't have been any ability to do any more with that. And it sounds also like it's not trying to be a specific story for a specific group of people. It is transcending that, even though he's Korean, and part of his experience with that is part of what's going into the whole love story piece. I'm assuming that like he's the Ember character, and so that maps onto the whole like, what do I do when I tell my parents that I'm dating somebody that's not Korean? But at the same time, like from what you've been saying, Ember is coded more like a black person.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say I identify with Ember in certain ways, but that's because, not to get on my high horse, but that's because typically in in America there tends to be a lumping of white and non-white.
Yeah.
And so the non-white experiences, while varied, very varied across a lot of different spectrums, they also do seem to run parallel in some ways. And so it's easy to kind of identify there. And you were right, by the way. Peter San is definitely Ember. Like, he is Ember.
And I think they did it on purpose to not make... They were trying not to make it like, oh, well, this is white people and non-white people, because
Right.
the voice character of Wade is black. And you have an Asian person that's playing...
Sound black. I'm just saying.
Hey,
Yeah.
I know who I am.
So you have the voice character for the voiceover actor for Ember is Asian, and then you have Bernie, Ronnie Del Carmen, and then the mom is an Iranian voice actor. So you have this whole like wide thing. Oh, and even one of Wade's brothers is played by. So they're really trying to step away from this is white and non-white, but you see that whole, hey, this is different, and so how are you coming into this as different, and not just saying, oh, this is white and non-white. No, it's different, and this place was not made for people that were different. And instead of just saying, oh, you can live here, but we're not changing anything, which is the difference between Element City and Zootopia. Like you were saying, oh, well, it's Zootopia. Well, if you look at Zootopia, what did the train look like? Well, they had big doors for all the big people. They had little doors for the little
Right,
people.
yeah.
Like, it was made for everyone to exist. Like, it wasn't just, oh, well, these are the size of the doors, and if you can't fit through them, then I don't know what to
Hope
tell
you
you.
don't burn it up.
I will say, one of the things is that Element City is very big, influenced by New York City, and so the fire district basically, there's
Yeah.
no water that's supposed to flow into the fire district. So I will say that there are some things that were adjusted, but like your downtown area, that's definitely water, earth, wind focused. It's all those things focused. So, Cameron, I'll go first. Let's out of 10. I'm gonna give Elemental. I'm sticking with a solid 8. I like the movie. It's a Monsters Inc. for me. It's a good movie. They have a good song in there. I think it has a lot of heart. But I'd have to be in a certain. It's not one that I'm going to just like. If you come over my house, oh, you haven't seen Elemental? Let's sit down. I'll probably recommend it as a good movie, something you should watch. And especially the documentary, like
Definitely the documentary. I haven't watched the full documentary, but when I saw the part of he was basically telling his story, like
Yeah. Oh,
my parents were
it's
immigrants,
amazing.
and I married someone non-Korean.
Here's the thing: even if you don't like Elemental or whatever, if you like Pixar and you like learning about Pixar and the people that work there and all that stuff, you need to watch the documentary. So I'm gonna give it a solid 8. Cameron, what about you?
I'm gonna have to go a little bit higher. I would probably go for
9.9.
Oh no, definitely not that high. But I would definitely. I never usually give a solid number. It would be in the 8.5 to 9 range. Like it's definitely. I wouldn't put it at it's a good 8. Like to me, it's more than that. And just the messages that. To me, the messages that it gives, like again, I said it before and I'll say it again. The marketing, because the marketing team did not. This was released over Father's Day weekend, and because this was not released as a father-daughter, like movie. Hey, take your dad and go see this. They missed out on a lot of money that they could have. I mean, it still made money. It was a slow burn, but they could have made a whole lot of money had they marketed it as, hey, go take your dad and go see this. Because I guarantee you people would have been boo-hooing in the movie theaters. Like, it was good.
Look, I didn't see this until my girls were out of town. And if the marketing would have... Because the reason was because I was like, well, Disney Love Story... We've seen that, and then Cameron came. Oh, you have to see this movie. That's what he sounds like when he calls me. By the way,
oh my
you
gosh,
have to see this movie. And so I go and see it, and I'm like, oh yeah, like if I wish they would have marketed it that way, because truly the primary love story, from the very first frame to literally the very last frame, the primary love story is between a father and his daughter, or you could even say parents and their child. And it's great because you're going to call me an awful dad, but I'm going to tell you anyway. My girls always ask me, right, who do you love better? Do you love me or do you love my sister better? And I always say mommy. And they're like, okay, but you can't say mommy. Who do you love better, me or my sister? And I say mommy. And they've always like really struggled with this. And then we watched Elemental together. And they saw, because... spoiler alert, in the end, Ember goes off and leaves the parents. And as soon as that happened, it was end of the movie, last frame, whatever, I turn it off and I say, that's why I love mommy, because you're going to go off one day. And daddy and mommy, we're going to try and help you. We're going to try to make sure you fly and all this stuff. But you're going to leave one day, and I'm going to be here with mommy. And mommy's going to be my love. And all this stuff. And it clicked for them. Something clicked for them in that moment. And if that would have been a Father's Day moment, that'd have been awesome. That'd have been great. Wonderful. But anyways.
Where's the part where we say you're a bad father?
Because he says, I love mommy more.
I love mommy more. People don't like that sort of thing. You should love everybody. Nah, I love my wife more. I'm just... Sorry
That's why
for
Deion Sanders ranks his kids. Y'all do it too. Y'all just don't put it on, on the internet.
Yeah. So that let's close it out here. So Cameron, Kristen, thanks so much for coming on the show this week. I appreciate it.
It's always awesome. Thanks a lot, guys.
I love doing it.
Well, happy to have both of you. And Ed, we missed you. Hope you get better. And definitely happy to have you along with us as well. Thank you so much for joining us. And please have a magical day.